This is essentially unlimited replayability. We have watched a similar video like this before. I think it will go tie hand in hand. Now, might not be because there's Stardew Valley here, but it will tie hand in hand with speedrunning, the one that we had before, where we watched, oh, how can I make my game be played for multiple hundreds of hours? And then it was basically just, okay, the people were speedrunning my game. But how does this happen? I want people to play my game for a long time and I want it to be good. And so I want to learn a little bit more about this today. And I think this video fits really well because that's what we are ultimately working on. We're working on polishing and making players stick longer in the game. Let's see.
Alright, so I found this neat little game called Geometry Dash.
Yeah.
It's just a fun little rhythm-based
That is a speedrunning game, yeah.
platformer, and it was only like $5 too. I mean, it can't be like Celeste though. I'll probably just put a few hours into it and crap.
Celeste was really good, but why is Stardew Valley on the list? That's what makes me curious, because Stardew Valley is not a speedrunning game, yet it's massively successful. Obviously, not speedrunning. Like, speedrunning games are not the reason why games are successful. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, it is oftentimes very easy to add time to your game, and then people spend a lot of time in your game to make the time go lower, because they like speedrunning. And I think that oftentimes artificially inflates these numbers. But it's also like, of course, why would anyone speedrun a boring game, right? It needs to be a good game too. Unlimited replayability. So I think that happens when you have multiple choices. Like, you play the game again and you can choose a different path that is maybe more optimal than the path you chose the time before. That's what I think it is.
Look, we're all guilty of it. We have an entire backlog of games that we know are good and know that we want to play.
But we don't play them.
Whenever we have free time, we always just go back to that one game we have hundreds of hours in. But
yeah, for me, that in the past, not so much anymore at the moment, because I want to stream it. For me, that was Gothic 1 and 2. I always would go back to these games, and I spent like multiple hundreds of hours, thousands of hours in the game, collecting all of the pickups and trying to do the quests in the perfect order so I maximize my experience points. So instead of level 59, I reach level 60 this time. Stuff like that. Yeah, that was awesome.
Why? What is it about these games that keep us coming back for more? What is so intriguing about this game about making a square jump that caused
you can
me to
get
put
better?
600 hours into it? And no, I'm not talking about simple replayability. I would consider Cluster Truck a pretty replayable game, but I've only put 7 hours into it. I'm talking about the kind of replayability that causes you not to just replay.
How much time do I have in Celeste? I don't think I played it for 50 hours. I mean, that's quite a lot still. For me? My stuff is AFK. No, maybe I didn't. Man, that's a lot. 50 hours? I know that my first playthrough was like 11 or 12 hours. Don't judge, okay? I didn't sleep much. But damn, that's a lot.
Play a game, but to play it over and over and over until all of a sudden you find out that you've accidentally put hundreds or thousands of hours into it. And before you yell at me in the comments, I need to say this. Not all people will put the same amount of time into a game. You might put hundreds of hours into a game that I've only put 3 into. How you spend your time is up to you. Nevertheless, many games that people seem to play a lot tend to have similar mechanics that contribute to their insanely high replay.
Yeah, so essentially you have more choices than you can explore in one playthrough. Dark Souls is a big proponent of that, and other RPG games. Or you try to beat the game faster or better, whether that be through a high score or through a timer. So for example, the game, let's talk about this because I think it's a good game. Not everything is about game mechanics. Ego is more important for 1000 hours. I think you're right. Yeah, ego, essentially, I'm better than these guys. Yeah, let's see. Let's take a look at the leaderboards here. So what works very well for speedrunning games is leaderboards. So this is Cakez game, and I think I've spent like 2 or 3 hours in the game already. And he just made this game in 3 days, which is really impressive. Yeah, you see this? Like this leaderboard right here. I'm on rank 10. What are these names, bro? Moron? You should get banned, you know? This stuff works very well. Let's see.
Play value. After analyzing the games that I've personally put hundreds of hours into, as well as some other games known for taking up a lot of time, I've concluded the main factors that give a game near unlimited replayability, starting with
time, variety, and depth.
Look, it's simple. If you have a lot of content in your game, players are more likely to put a lot of hours into it. A game like Super Hexagon...
No, I don't believe this. I think that's wrong. And why do I say this? Because Starfield exists. And while, yes, there are a lot of people that spend a lot of time in Starfield, the majority of the feedback about the world is that it feels empty and boring and repetitive. Good content, yeah. So there needs to be an asterisk that says good content that is not repetitive and unique. And that's really difficult to do. So I think timing is better there. It's easier. Just put a timer in it. Where does he store the leaderboard on itch.io? I don't know. You have to ask TCAP.
May be pretty fun, but once you've played it for a while, there's just not much left to do. Whereas a game like Breath of the Wild has too many things to possibly do in a single play.
I think that's bad. I don't think that's good game design. So I don't know about you, but how many of you have completed all of the quests in Skyrim? How many of you? I bet 0 of you have completed all of the quests. And how many of you have explored the entire world? I bet that would be 0 too. But if I were to give you a game like Gothic 1 or Gothic 2, you would say that you killed, not everyone of course, but there would be quite a few people that would tell me, yeah, I killed all of the monsters and then all of the NPCs in the world because I could. And why can you do that in those games? Because they are packed together, like in Dark Souls. You don't have this widespread plane. You have a very packed package that is deep, high, and short and thin, essentially, if you can say that in English, right? And so it allows you to traverse the world faster and allows you to put a lot of stuff in the world while making it seem really vast, but it's not actually very vast in like a traditional plane type of thing. Sense, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think this is not that great because people can get overwhelmed. And that's one of the biggest complaints that people have about Elden Ring. That is a massively successful game, but people still complain about it because it's too wide, it's too much. Don't try Breath of the Wild, not sure if it's like this or not, but Ghost of Tsushima, for instance, is already too long for me. Red Dead Redemption 2, crazy long. I don't think goal of open world game is 200% it. Yeah, but like, see, like that's, in my opinion, that isn't great because you have so much content. You spend so much time on developing this content and it's just lost. While you could create more replay value if it's more concise and I think a smaller world leads to more exploration because you can put more stuff into the smaller world, and every time you go somewhere you go over, how do you say that? You go around a corner and then you see something new that you didn't see before. Maybe there's a pickup, maybe there's a hidden item, maybe a hidden weapon. That is something that you can see more and more and more in a smaller game, while in a bigger game that is more spread out, you see this less often. And so like there's so much wasted land, essentially. So many wasted trees, wasted rocks, wasted mountains. And you're just running and running and running. And I think it's too repetitive. I think it's like, in my opinion, that gets boring.
Playthrough. So you can play this game over and over and still find new secrets. Take a look at Stardew Valley.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. What is he saying about this?
Farm, fish, mine, raise a chicken and name him Gerald, increase friendship with villagers, complete quests, kill monsters, sacrifice Gerald to the overlords in the sky, gamble. The list just goes on.
So Stardew Valley is the best game. Out of the games we saw, Stardew Valley is the best game because it has all of these different features. Not because of gambling, but because of all of those features. It is a world that is packed with possibilities. I don't know, even if I myself didn't find something, it's interesting to see someone years later finding some rare encounter. You mean in a very long open world and very wide open world? I don't know, man. To me, it just makes it feel too vast. But it could just be a personal opinion. And I've seen this opinion voiced a lot, which is why I'm bringing it up. And it's also my opinion. But again, it's subjective, right? Like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Witcher 3. So yeah, I think, like, I did try to play Witcher 3 without a map, just exploring the world, finding myself through the world by using landmarks, and that kind of worked. But oftentimes for these vast worlds, it's really difficult to tell where you are in the world. While in a smaller game or in a more packaged game, you can see everything. You can go by landmarks, essentially. And you don't need a map.
There's an entire island in the game that you can only access after you're far into the end game, or at least whatever end game means in Stardew Valley. By making sure there's always more stuff in your game for the player to do, you can keep them captivated for longer, and thus have them put more hours into it. Wow. Another way to achieve a similar result is not necessarily by adding a lot of variety to your game, but by adding a lot of depth. When talking about video games, depth...
I think that this is what my game has, a lot of depth. What we did today, you know, the targeting, maybe that's not good, but that's adding another layer of depth to the game that the player can explore later on.
Refers to how many options the player can take while still being viable for success. Take Bloons Tower Defense, for example. There's one simple goal. Pop the balloons before they reach the end. But there are countless ways to achieve this. You could go for a Super Monkey build. Try and get a Paragon.
Guys, my favorite monkey is the Super Monkey. What is your favorite monkey? A lot of balloons, yeah. So essentially the different types of builds. Man, I'm going for that too, but more complex. Damn, oh yeah.
As fast as possible. Play using only dart monkeys. All of these ways are completely viable, allowing for endless replay value. Sandbox games are good examples of games with unlimited depth.
Oh yeah.
Since sandbox games are by definition games where you just mess around and do whatever you want, everything is viable. Anything you do is a correct way to play the game. They can even go beyond being just a video game and become a medium in which to express creativity. Okay, wait, no, you don't need to do that.
Skill ceiling,
that often comes alongside depth in a video game is a high skill ceiling. If we were to use a line graph to represent a player's skill in a game, the skill floor represents how good you need to be at the game in order to play it properly, and the skill ceiling represents how good you need to be to play the game perfectly with no mistakes. Having a low skill floor makes it easier for people to get into your game, and having a high skill ceiling makes it easier for people to stick with your game.
I think I am making the biggest mistake for my game, because I just can't bring myself to nerf my game. So whenever I see something that's too difficult in my game, I try not to nerf it, but I try to find more strategies to beat it. Even though I can't beat it in like 5 runs, I'm trying to beat it in the 7th, 6th, 10th run. And I think that's bad. But I just can't bring myself to nerf. Like,
Ideally, you would want both, but we're going to focus on the latter here. The reason having a high skill ceiling is so important is that players will always have something...
Oh, by the way, what this means is having a high skill ceiling is not that you have very pixel perfect mechanics, and I think the best comparison here is Celeste. So Celeste is a really difficult game when you try to play it professionally and you try to push timers, but Celeste is actually really easy for everyone that's starting it out because it has so many forgiveness mechanics, like for example letting you jump when you jump off a cliff for a couple of frames, or being able to jump buffering, so buffer jumping. So that means you can press the spacebar while you're still in the air and you're gonna jump when you land on the ground. So basically having pixel perfect jumping. And that is not something that you can achieve perfectly when you don't have these mechanics in the game. And so there is still a very high skill ceiling on what you do to the game or in the game. However, it is not so much catered around being perfect with your input rather than being perfect with your timing and what to do next. And, or not perfect, but getting close to perfect. And so when you don't have these forgiveness mechanics in your game, there's not going to be a very high skill ceiling because it's very inconsistent. And it's more tedious than fun. essentially. And therefore you alienate the audience that is more casual. And that's ultimately going to be the biggest audience you have.
To work towards getting better at the game. With a game like Celeste, the controls are so precise that the game is able to create ludicrously difficult levels that require mastery of all game mechanics. Beating a single screen could take hours depending on how good you are. Additionally, if your game has a good competitive or speedrunning community,
we talked about Celeste.
ceiling can increase exponentially. The desire to improve so that you can beat someone in a competition is a surprisingly strong force.
Yep.
In competitive multiplayer games, players are constantly searching for techniques and strategies they can employ. Super Smash Bros. Melee was released 22 years ago.
Yeah, and people
yet
still
its
play it.
competitive community is still thriving.
Yep.
You know, if you ignore all the cease and desists it's received from Nintendo. As the
Nintendo's just so Nintendo's so salty, man. It's crazy, bro. Like, what is wrong with these guys? We're gonna watch that why Nintendo... We're going to watch the video why Nintendo is so... what do you call that? Stingy with their property? Why they, not ban. Why they sue everyone so much? We're gonna watch that video because I want to know why. But yeah, they tried to sue everyone.
Grew, people only developed more and more techniques, whether they were basic ones such as wave dashing and L canceling,
to make money,
or more niche ones such as the Thunder Jacket. Oftentimes in competitive games, the believed skill ceiling is broken when a new groundbreaking technique is discovered due to constant labbing to try and find any sort of competitive advantage. And of course, if a new technique is found, you gotta spend a lot of time perfecting it, thus adding more replay value. Speedrunning is in a very similar boat to competitive.
Yeah, speedrunning is
Take
big.
Mario 64 for an example. This game was released 27 years ago, yet runs are submitted to speedrun.com every day.
Oh yeah.
Its strong community is always finding new strategies, techniques, and glitches to lower times. The first 120 star world records were in the
I don't know about you guys. I find this crazy how people can spend so much time and effort into one game. I don't know about you, but I cannot play a game for more than a couple of months. I get bored. Whether I make progress in the game, whether I'm bad at the game, it gets worse. Autism? No, you're not alone. I think I have 4,000 hours in RimWorld, but did you play them in one step, in one setting? Or did you play them scattered around in, let's say, okay, I played a month here, and then I played a month there, and then 2 weeks here, and then I made another run here. I don't think you played them in one run, right? One session, and not one session. But like, let's say over let's say 5 to 6 months. I can confirm I have like 100 hours in Portal 1, and I have autism. One day, bro. Okay, bro. Yeah, sure.
Of around 3 hours. The current world record beats it in a little over an hour and a half, almost half the time of the old record. And that's not even close to the theoretical perfect time. If you can always get better at a game, then there's always a reason to keep playing it.
Hollow Knight is really good.
Even then, you'll still sometimes run out of stuff to do. The perfect strategy will be found, and the game will become boring again since every match is the same. In this situation, developers can still keep you hooked on the game through clever usage of
new content. I see. So let's say people find a really strong build in my game, and it's overpowered. Instead of nerfing it, I buff existing heroes and I add new abilities. And then people will find a new overpowered build. Right?
Not everyone can be a good game designer. Sometimes
we are good game designer, right? Just wait, 1 to 2 years, we're a good game designer, guys. Just wait.
Sometimes your game just lacks depth, variety, or any reason to get good at it. However, thanks to the power of the internet, games are able to be updated post-launch. This can be as small as a quick bug patch, or as large as a new chapter or area of the game.
You guys want to see a game that puts in a shit ton of effort into the updates? Take a look at this. Path of Exile. Patch notes. There we go. You guys want to see content? Updates? Take a look at this game. You think this is all of the different things they did in the game? These are just the headings. That's the table, bro. This is where it begins. Take a look. Just, let's scroll this down a little bit at some reasonable speed. And, I want to bring your attention to the top right corner where the white rectangle is. it's moving very slowly, guys. Really slowly. It's not even... Now it is 25% done. We have just covered 25% of the content updates. Aiming too much the hardest barrier in every game, that's a bold strategy. So yeah, it's crazy, right? It's making me dizzy. Me too, reading it.
This is most notable in online multiplayer games, where new updates...
How long of a dev period is this? 4 months. 3 to 4 months. I'm not even kidding. It's insane. These people are crazy.
Meta shakeups are constantly being released.
No way, it is.
Team Fortress 2 was released 15 years ago, and it's constantly receiving updates. With the ability to change games after they release, you never have to worry about players running out of content, as you can...
And the cool thing about Steam, what it allows you to do is this. Let's, go for Path of Exile. It's also on Steam. I don't have it on Steam. I have it, let's see, Steam. I have it as their own launcher. That's how I got into the game. But you can take a look at Path of Exile on Steam, and you could see whenever they release a new update, there's a bump. You see these bumps at the bottom here? Not the one at top, but on bottom. Let's say we take the last 4 updates. You see this? Fuck, go away. So that it... Wait, to stop it. 200,000 players. Stop it, man. Don't do the G. Don't click on the G, man. Fuck. Anyways, I can't click on it. It's kind of annoying right now, but yeah. So you see how they kind of revive the update, revive the game every time with a new update. And that's a lot of updates. And you can see that over time, it has kind of started to grow, and the spikes have gotten bigger and bigger over time. It's difficult to say because of all of these letters here. I don't know why they have so many letters. I guess this is delirium or something? Yeah, I don't know. All-time peak 3 months ago. Yeah, all-time peak. 229,000. That's crazy, man. Just wait for Path of Exile 2. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be a big game.
Always just put out some DLC when you notice the player base starting to dwindle. Of course, not every game has the luxury of being owned by the largest PC game distributor in the world. Sometimes you don't have enough money or resources to keep pushing out good updates.
Chronicles of Illyria. Guys, what is about this game? I didn't hear very positive things about this. In a shocking development, it seems Chronicles of Illyria is no more. Caspian, the founder of Soulbound Studios, made an announcement titled Chronicles of Illyria Into the Abyss, which starts by chronicling, Sag, yeah.
In this situation,
didn't have enough money.
Community-generated content. Take a look at Skyrim.
Oh yeah,
it's already
mods.
got a large amount of content, but players will eventually explore every corner of the world.
I think mods make Skyrim an all-time replayable game. The dev made a Kickstarter.
Mod installer and you can get
collected $4 million or so. Then he said he ran out of money and stopped development. People wanted to sue them. Then he picked up development again and made bogus update posts. As far as I remember. Yeah, like, so... These fucking scammers,
stuff
bro.
like this. Community-generated content is a great way to keep your game alive.
It is.
And the best part about it is that it's free for both the developers and the players. The simple...
I want to give you an idea of what I'm planning for my game. In this game, you will be able to design your own levels. It's not done yet, right? And you will be able to design your own tiles like this. And so, for example, I could place, I don't know, maybe this tree right here. I could place it... It's currently bugged. Let's just move on with the video, whatever.
Inclusion of a level creator or easy modding tools allow for a near infinite amount of new content, so long as players are willing to create more. Games like Gary's Mod and Mario Maker have their entire premise based on community content. So long as the communities of these games are still active, players will always have something to do.
True. That was embarrassing.
Okay, I have to admit, just because your game has a lot of hours worth of playtime doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
Yep.
Sometimes games keep pushing out low-effort updates or funding competitive tournaments in a desperate attempt to stay relevant. Arguably, one of the worst ways to make your game have more hours worth of playtime is to implement the use of
grinding. I mean, I don't like grinding too much.
We all hate it.
Yep.
If for some reason you don't know what grinding is, grinding refers to having to repeatedly perform the same action over and over again in order to get the desired result.
Yep.
And look, grinding isn't always bad. You could be playing Celeste and have to keep grinding a screen until you're good enough to beat it. That's an example of good grinding. However, some games will have you repeat the same...
I think Vampire Survivors does a very good way of grinding. You grind a lot of gold, but every time you play a new level, even if you lose, you earn gold. And so you're ultimately always progressing. I think that's the best way to grind.
Mindless action with no variation whatsoever just to progress. Almost nobody likes leveling up their characters in RPGs, especially if most of the time you're just spamming one button.
Yeah.
While grinding may be a way to increase playtime in a game, it's artificial and lazy. Players usually won't be willing to grind unless it's in small amounts or you have a bit of deception on your end that makes them think the grind will be worth it. You'll often...
Yeah, I like upgrades that are worth it. And I think you're right about Classic World of Warcraft. I think the grinding in Classic World of Warcraft works because there's ultimately always an upgrade you could work towards. And even a drop from a monster that is green can be an upgrade for you on almost all stages of the game, apart from getting towards the very end. And I think that's what makes the game really good for your first couple of characters.
can see MMOs and mobile games do this a lot.
And then MMOs right now, they don't do that anymore. They don't have this like World of Warcraft Classic is actually the best example for this, because you have, and it goes into the same ballpark as Stardew Valley. You have so many, like, did you know that in World of Warcraft you need to buy toxins for your daggers so that you can coat them in poison so that you can deal additional poison damage when you're leveling? And so you are investing into the fact that you have to go to an NPC to buy those is already something that makes the game deeper. And you figure this out just by playing the game. Plus the whole time you're playing, you're exploring the world. Yeah, exactly. As you explore the world, you find out, oh, cool, I can fish here. Oh, cool, I can get first aid here. And, oh, cool, what was the one that I found the craziest? You need to buy a skinning knife to do skinning. Something like that.
They'll disguise themselves as this.
Yeah, you had to
cool
buy arrows,
game,
stuff like
but
that.
To
Yep.
get to any of the said cool parts, you have to grind for a few hours. This is especially true if your game involves microtransactions. I mean, why grind for a while when you could just spend a few bucks to skip it? I mean, you've already spent a lot of time on this game, so the money is completely justified. And of course, there's this one particular game I hate that is notorious for its heavy grinding and microtransactions.
Raid Shadow Legends.
But do I really want to do this? I mean, I do need the footage, but
Raid Shadow
whatever,
Legends.
let's just get this over.
Oh, Genshin Impact. I see.
Is
Gacha
a game,
games.
and if I'm being completely honest, it's not the worst game I've ever played. Believe me when I say I've played some pretty bad games. The reason why I always talk about how I hate Genshin Impact is because it's just disappointing. An open world game with graphics that look like this make it seem like it should be a really good game. But as it turns out, most of the game consists of pure grinding. I don't want to play a video game like it's my full-time job. I want to play a video game because I want to enjoy the most...
You play Genshin Impact because you collect a bunch of waifus. What are you talking about? You're playing the game wrong, bro.
Important factor that you can add to your game
What's
if
he doing?
you want players to increase their playtime. And of course, that factor is...
Fun. Yeah, but fun is difficult to, like, find.
At the end of the day, most people don't play video games because they want their hours in it.
Also, when you're developing, of course, we are watching from the perspective of a game developer, right? You're playing your game every day. How do you know it's still fun? I think that's really difficult to figure out. Fun is very subjective, yeah.
To increase. They want to be truly immersed in the game they're playing. They want to enjoy the time they spend playing it.
I don't think fun is the right term.
Fun.
I think fun is not the right term. I think it's called being engaged in the game for a long period of time and forgetting time. So let's say I play my game and I spend 30 minutes in the game and I look at the clock and it's 30 minutes later. That's kind of fun, essentially. That was fun. Being locked in, yeah.
Some games don't have a lot of depth or variety.
That's how I see it too.
Some games aren't able to be played in a competitive manner. Some games don't have a super long and unnecessary grind.
Look
Sure,
up fan
these
services,
factors
Cakez?
can increase the
No.
likelihood of someone sinking hundreds of hours into your game, but eventually if players aren't enjoying your game, they'll leave it. In the end, it doesn't matter how much content your game has. It doesn't matter how much depth it has. It doesn't matter how easy it is to mod. What matters is that your game is fun, and as long as they...
What matters is that people spend a lot of time in the game without noticing that they spent a lot of time in the game. Whatever that means. Fun, a good game, engaging, stuff like that.
game that you play is fun, then it only makes logical sense for you to invest.
Play Sid
all of
Meier's
your
game
time.
for 30 minutes and it's 6 hours later. We read an article about that the other day. I think they're really smart people, yeah. They keep releasing the same game. They're still earning a lot. Subscribe! Yes, sir. We will. Good video, bro. 1 million views a year ago. Very nice. Here you go. Guys, if you want to support this guy, I think he brought up some good points. You know, it's always good to take a look at some other games that are not in the same genre as yours.
What is happening to the studios we love?
Stop.
All right.
What is happening?
Oh,
to the
no.
studios we love?
No. We are like...
Alright, so I found this neat little game.
There we go. 1 million views is crazy. He has 10,000 subs. Yeah, I think it was maybe it's his first video? Second video? 17 videos. Anyways, really cool stuff. Can we support him in any way? No, we can't. So that is the only way. Support him, guys. Like the video and subscribe. I think he brings up some good points. And the one that I find the most interesting was obviously Stardew Valley. I think he did a very good game by adding in, not only by getting better at pixel art, but also by adding in a bunch of content and different things to do in the game. And we talked about this in World of Warcraft. It makes you wonder what is there to explore. And that's ultimately the reason why people keep playing. You play the game for once, and it's also in Dark Souls what you can do there. You play it for once, and then you realize, oh, I made all of these mistakes. I can do it like this. Damn, that's cool. And then you play it again. And Stardew Valley is actually the creator, like the biggest inspiration for me, essentially, because he was a solo indie developer. He funded the game himself, and he spent about 4.5 years on the game alone, on him as himself. And I think that is commendable. That is crazy.